What's up, guys? It's the Witnesses Podcast, episode 7, and we all know what happened this week. So let's get right into it. Zach, let's go, buddy. TW. Oh, it gets better every time.
Every single time. And the transitions, too.
Yep. Okay, guys, so the Browns stunned the 49ers in what people are calling the upset of the year. This was a classic, like, AFC North kind of game. It was raining on and off. There was a few points when it was raining very hard. Zach, I'll pass it over to you, but first I just want to say, thank God we won in the white helmets. This throwback white uniform with the white helmets is our coolest look that we've had in a long time. And if we got absolutely clobbered in them after Nick Chubb got hurt in them in week 2, they were going to be cursed, and I was going to say we need to retire them for forever. So how do you feel about the jerseys, and how do you feel about the win?
I absolutely agree about the jerseys. I almost didn't want them to put them out again because they're so iconic, and we built up the last 10 months talking about, or however long they were out. Like, oh, these are amazing. But the last thing in our head is like the Steelers game, and this was the only type of game to come out of this for us to be like, okay, yeah, let's wear it. Against people who are 5-0, and everyone's saying they're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, like we beat them in our town. I guess we can keep them, even though they're so cool. So I'm totally with you because, bro, if we lost to that field goal by Moody, I wouldn't have want those jerseys. I'm like, they're bad luck. They get our running back injured. They get our, they make the field goals. One thing, my biggest thought is what's going on in the media right now, Tom, where everyone's saying Christian McCaffrey was out, Deebo Samuel was out, but nobody's talking about how Nick Chubb was out, how Deshaun Watson was out. We have XFL guy, PJ Walker. Like, isn't that the craziest thing, bro? Like, it's crazy.
And Deebo and Christian did suit up to play. They just left the game with, like, minor injuries, some soft tissue injuries. I think they just hurt their feelings. That's what actually happened.
My favorite part,
no, go
my
ahead.
favorite part was Christian McCaffrey leaves with an oblique, and the commentators are saying, yeah, let's throw it down the sideline. And it's like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey's not coming back. Like, he's injured. Then he comes back for one play. He's like, you know what? We can beat the Browns. I'm so good. Comes back for one play. It's like a screen. They go like 10 plus yards, and it gets called back. So it was all for nothing. And right after that, he left the game, and they're like, well, Christian McCaffrey tested that oblique out, and he's out for the game. I was like, you went in there, and you saw what our defense does to running backs, no matter who their name is, and you were like, playing through an injury is not worth it. I'm out for 2 weeks. Peace.
Yeah, so first drive, they come out and they look good. They look as advertised. They drove it like 85 yards for a touchdown. I will say our guys looked a little bit frustrated from the pregame scuffle. We'll talk about that in a second. They looked like we still were more concerned about fighting them than playing them in a football game. And we gave them some penalties. They scored. Kyle Shanahan scored on a cute little toss pass with Brock Purdy to McCaffrey. It was just like, oh, this is exactly like what these guys like to do. And then on our first drive, PJ Walker gets a few first downs. We're like, okay, maybe we got something here with XFL star PJ Walker. And then he throws a bad pick to Brock Purdy. And this is like 5 minutes into the game. I was watching with some folks. I was like, oh, that was a good game. Like I thought it was over already because that's what happened against the Ravens. I thought, it's like, wow, deja vu is hitting hard. But no, we really weathered the storm. After that first drive, they basically didn't have anything happen on offense unless we turned the ball over and they had great field position. This was a slugfest. It was a rainy game. And, a lot of people got minor injuries here, minor injuries there, little tweaks. But I think the story of the game is that there was a pregame scuffle, and it really set the tone. So during the pregame warm-ups, the players are getting a little chippy. They're starting to talk trash. And, once you see one guy start to head in the direction and then 2 guys, then it's 4 guys, then it's 10, it just multiplies quickly. And just the smallest of things start to turn into overreactions. But you see Brandon Ayuk, clapping, and he kind of, shoves Juan Thornhill. And then somebody shoves him for shoving Juan Thornhill. And then Deebo Samuel comes out of nowhere and shoves somebody. And, like, it was disrespectful. And, you know, it's pretty normal for both teams to be chippy like this. But the wide receivers of the 49ers started it. And I love to point that out. And, you know, I think, like, they came into Cleveland saying, not only we're going to beat you, we're going to beat you up. We're going to win the fight today. And the Browns were like, well, hold on a second. We got Myles Garrett. We have some serious dogs on this team. Like, if you want to fight, we'll take it outside anytime. Yeah, you might beat us, but we're going to kick your ass if you guys want to fight. And it spilled over into the game. The pregame entrance, the Niners have this thing where they carry a boombox and play a certain song. And so Greg Newsome brought out a boombox to mockingly do what the Niners did. And you could tell, like, there were some Browns players who were almost like giggling, like, ha, 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 F them. But there were some Browns players who were like, yep, I'm walking out to the octagon. I'm ready to go fist fight these MFers, and I don't care what happens at the end of the game as long as I've punched them in the nose. Whew, I'm getting fired up talking about it, man. I love our attitude and the tone shift after this scuffle. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and you mentioned it, the boombox, and I mean that's Deebo's thing, and Deebo is on Twitter right now. First of all, he's not just fighting against our Browns
talking trash
people
after losing against the Browns players, but he's getting in arguments with other people. Go ahead.
The guy is injured, and still people are in his head. Like, you should be in the rehab center, my bro. Like, he's fighting Darius Slayton right now, as well as the Browns players.
And
just going
C.J.
back
Gardner-Johnson. Like, he's just, like, he's
everyone
picking all these fights.
Speaking of, and that's the one thing that I really love about our team is, listen, we are Petty Wop. We are King of Petty. I
love that.
We are going to be... Shout out to Big Bucks Brooks for that saying. We're those type of people. Like, Greg Newsome talks the most out of everyone in the world, and he's been in Jamar Chase's head. This is exactly what Tom's been preaching. He's been in Jamar Chase's head just talking shit. I just love to see our guys rally around. And Mary Kay Cabot came out with a report that on Wednesday... Mm-hmm. Every single player was talking to her, telling her, like, this practice is different. We are different. And that's the first time you see PJ Walker. You know, he was in the locker room and he's saying, oh, I'll let you know tomorrow if I start. So he knew he was starting on Wednesday. And I think you make a great point. Knowing who your quarterback is more than an hour before the game gets, like, the guys are there. They're all rallying around. All weekend they went to sleep like, we have a practice squad quarterback. The defense is going to carry the game. Mm-hmm. And the defense put the team on their back and was like, okay, everyone's covering this game. Watch what we do to the people you say are the best defense.
Yeah, this is against a juggernaut, the number one offense in the league and arguably the best defense in the league. But I think after this game, there is no argument. We have the best defense in the league. I mean, Deebo Samuel started a fight that he couldn't finish. And this is a Deebo story. He did this in college against the University of Georgia when he was getting asked about DeAndre Baker before a South Carolina versus Georgia matchup. And they were like, what's it going to be like to go up against DeAndre Baker? And he was like, I don't even know who that is. And then Georgia beats them like by 40. And DeAndre Baker specifically, you know, picked off a ball that was thrown to Deebo, took it to the house, taunting Deebo the whole time. It's like, I guess this is the story of this guy's life. Like, he's a tough guy from San Francisco. You know, by San Francisco's terms, he's considered tough. But when you come up to Cleveland, when you come up to an actual, like, blue-collar, tough town, oh, man, people will punch you in the mouth if you ask for it. Zach, we have breaking news. Brock Purdy is actually, in fact, not Joe Montana.
What? I thought he was undefeated. Like he was like 10-0. He's so cool. What are you talking about?
I mean, he was drafted in the 7th round, and Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th. They basically are the same guy.
Mr. Irrelevant? I think not.
Yeah, Mr. Pretty Relevant.
So relevant till the conditions are not good and it's not perfect and he doesn't have his perfect three superstars.
And you realize your tough guys are all soft. No, I mean, I don't hate Brock Purdy, so I don't want to come down on him so hard. But it's so funny listening to the media like still defend him after this game. They're like, he almost put together a winning drive at the end. It's like the guy finished the game with like 120 passing yards. Like he had less passing yards than PJ Walker, who was on the practice squad 6 weeks ago. And Brock Purdy's played just fine, but his players start to show their true colors, and then they turn to him and say, can you make a play? And he made some plays, but the biggest thing I want to point out about him is that in the second half, in total, he completed 5 passes, okay? 4 of them were on that last drive. So before that final drive, he completed 1 pass in the second half. And we want to talk about him in the MVP conversation? Like, most valuable player means you elevate your team. This guy is elevated by his team, and it's so clear. It's so clear cut. Like, Trent Williams is a fantastic left tackle. Christian McCaffrey's the most versatile running back. Deebo Samuel's the most versatile wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk is one of the game's best speedsters. George Kittle is right behind Kelsey for the second best tight end in the whole league. This guy has not made any of them better. And that's, it's hard to make some of those guys better, but he's not the one. He is not Neo, okay?
Yeah, let's not hand the MVP to him on a platter. I don't want to rail on him because I respect him and what he's been able to accomplish. Like, at the end of the day, it's not easy to start in the NFL and win games. It is easy when if 5 of those players on your offense have the little star thing on Madden and they're insane, and all you have to do is be able to take in the play, and then maybe remember a check. That's it. But he does a good job at being a quarterback in the NFL. But when it's raining a little bit, and when Deebo Samuels somebody was in his head before he stepped on the field, and Christian McCaffrey's like my oblique, it hurts a little more than I wish to admit. When those cards stack against you, you see what happens, who the real dog is, and it wasn't Brock Purdy. I mean, his first name's Brock. Okay.
And man, I don't think I've heard Brock Turdy more in the last couple of days than I've heard in my entire life. I mean, George Kittle had 1 catch all game for 1 yard. And I don't think that's all George Kittle's fault. Some of it is George Kittle's fault, but not all of it. Our defense is nasty. And, I'm not trying to take anything away from Brock Purdy, but I've not seen him make these great throws that an MVP would make. His touchdown pass to McCaffrey was a shuffle pass. It was a cute design by Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is a creative coach. They hung 42 on Dallas because Kyle's creative. His creative ideas are just so creative and interesting. He's not being asked to play quarterback in the way that, Brady was asked. Joe Montana was asked. Like, he's not sitting back in the pocket and dissecting a defense, okay? He's listening to his headphones. He's going, what was that, Kyle? Oh, do this? Okay. I definitely will not have any individual thoughts of my own. I'm going to just do exactly what you tell me, and hopefully these incredibly talented people will execute, and I'll get to take all the credit.
They had a lot of people on their side, on the San Francisco side, Deebo, Trent Williams, so many we could name. But we had the best thing on our side, Tom. We had Jim Schwartz. Listen, was Jim Schwartz the biggest offseason acquisition for not just the Browns, for the NFL? And I want you to answer this. Do you think he does so good? Everyone's giving him recognition now. Do you think he does so good that we have him just for this year and he's gone to be a head coach somewhere next year?
Oh, man, that's such a good question. First off, yeah, I think he's the biggest acquisition for any team that happened this offseason. I mean, if you want to look at the difference between good coaching and bad coaching, you look at our defense last year versus this year. I mean, our personnel last year was pretty similar. We've obviously made a ton of acquisitions, but, I mean, Myles Garrett, his stock was relatively down heading into this year. It wasn't down by much at all, but, like, relative to what you expect of Myles Garrett, it was a little bit down. And then you have these players like Grant Delpit, who, complete question mark. JOK, complete question mark. Denzel Ward's injuries and inconsistent play were nearing the point where we were like, should we trade him? And these guys are all playing Pro Bowl caliber defense right now. And I also think it's worth pointing out the stat on the screen here. Jim Schwartz is now officially Shanahan is 1-8 versus Jim Schwartz. So that means Jim Schwartz knows Kyle Shanahan, and he knows his offense well, and he knows what he thinks is cute and creative. There's only been one time that Kyle Shanahan has ever scored 20 points against a Jim Schwartz defense. I mean, Jim was obviously not scared of a 7th-round quarterback named Brock Purdy. And, oh, man, I can't get enough Jim Schwartz, man. Your second question, is he going to move on? You know, I'm going to be hopeful and optimistic and say no. That he's realized, you know, if you get a head coaching opportunity, that means you're also being asked to revitalize a franchise that is in the position where they need a new head coach. And yeah, that might sound fun if you've got some great draft picks and you've got a 5-year plan, but he's got Myles Garrett and he's got all of these other potentially blue chip players along with him. He might have the most defensive Pro Bowlers in the league this year. And it's because of his play calling and him putting them in positions to succeed and play free. I think somebody at his age, he's almost 60. I don't think he's looking to, you know, turn around the Panthers. Like, I don't think that's what he wants to do right now. I hope he likes it here and he wants to stay with these players and he wants to, you know, continue to ride with these guys because, I mean, we will gladly take him for as long as he'll stay. I mean, isn't Dan Quinn doing that in Dallas right now? Like he had opportunities to be a head coach after.
Yeah, but everyone that was on that Tampa Bay squad under Bruce Arians when they won and Sean McVay when they won, all those guys leave. And I think I posed that question thinking that, you know, like Super Bowl or playoff run is, you know, probably going to happen this season. Best case scenario.
I mean, if I was him, the only head coaching job I would consider is the Browns. Like, he wants... I don't know. I think if you've already tried the experiment, which he did in Detroit, of trying to revitalize and fully turn over a franchise, it's a long, grueling process where you know you're probably going to take more L's than dubs, especially at the beginning. And... yeah, I just think at his age and with his success, like he's like, I know what I'm good at. As long as I'm at the helm for a defense, I can dominate. And as long as my players are Myles Garrett and JOK and Delpit and Denzel Ward and all of our corners, and like he can make a home in Cleveland. And gosh, would we like him to stay?
And the one thing about a good defensive coordinator is, screw those names you just mentioned, Myles Garrett, JOK, Denzel Ward. Can he make a guy like Alex Wright look very good? Can he make a guy like Fields or McLeod look decent and startable and you can rely on them? And that's what he does. He has a philosophy with the defense that helps them play free. They don't have to think about too many things, and it's honestly just beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
it's
incredibly. It's the best defense I've ever watched in my life. It's so exciting to watch them play.
And Myles Garrett doesn't have a sack last game against the Niners.
He almost had a couple.
He almost played amazing.
He played great.
And what I was reading the stat. He was 31% of snaps he won against Trent Williams, which is Trent Williams' worst outing against a D end. So Myles Garrett put up the best performance against Trent Williams, who's in the Hall of Fame. And
he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
He's still very good. But Myles Garrett, there's a great clip of him literally throwing Trent Williams. No one throws Trent Williams. Trent Williams is, for left tackle, he's probably the best athlete at left tackle in the game still to this day, and he's in the teens in his career for how many years he's played. But Miles chucked him. I also want to say, just because we're talking about tackles, on the flip side, DeJuan Jones and Jed Wills both played quite well in terms of their overall game against Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. Now, Nick Bosa had 3 tackles for loss and a sack, so I'm not going to say Nick Bosa didn't have a good game, but DeJuan Jones and Jed Wills both, in terms of the whole game, held their own, which is very encouraging. Very, very encouraging.
The same way we talk smack about Jed Wills when he doesn't do good, I'm so happy you mentioned him, because Jed Wills, I continue to say this, if you don't know who's your quarterback the day before, the hour before, you're just not mentally going to be there. I mean, it's a professional league. Not everyone is like that. Some people are just there off talent and how they play. Jed Wills is good. He's not trash. He's good when he knows who his quarterback is, when we have a scheme, and when we follow it. I mean, we ran the ball on Sunday, and we gave up on running the last time we played against the Ravens.
And Joel Bitonio didn't play. Joel Bitonio was out. Michael Dunn, who is like, gosh, 6th Man of the Year award or something for him, because he has played center, guard, and tackle for us over the last couple of years. And he is always plug and play for whatever reason. And the fact that Jed Wills and Michael Dunn were able to get pushes on the left side against Nick Bosa and open up holes for Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt basically all game, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Nobody would have guessed that.
No, and there's another thing nobody would have guessed, Tom. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Everyone would have guessed. Everyone would have guessed that the refs were piss poor. Tom, take me back to this picture on the screen. Those of you who are not following, subscribing, smashing the like button, you can't see the photo right now. But, Tom, this photo of the chains moving, describe that feeling. Describe the refs. Give me all your thoughts on this one.
Okay, so it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and P.J. Walker goes up to do a QB sneak. Initially gets stuffed, does a nice spin move on top of the pile. He literally just rolls over some guys. Clearly gets the first down. The announcers were like, and that's a first down? Because it was. And the refs could not have botched this process more. Zooming out, there's 25 penalties in this game, and there were some other goofy things that I'm going to talk about in a second. They just looked overwhelmed, like they were being affected by the rain just as much as the players. But in this specific instance, P.J. Walker gets the first down. The ref is running out with the ball and clearly trying to put it in a spot where it's a first down. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe I should shuffle over here, and then maybe I should take a step to the left. And they're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. And it's like the yellow marker on the live video is clearly showing it's a first down. They're like, yeah, we got to bring out the chain gang. Chain gang comes out. They mark it quickly, and it's very clearly a first down. They're like, oh, maybe we should move the ball. Then they move the ball back to where they think it is, and then you see this picture here. The ball is still clearly past this chain pole. And so then they start to lean the pole away to try and say it's not a first down, but the ball is still past it. This was such a joke to watch live. And then another ref comes in and goes, oh, here, and then moves the ball back a little bit. And they're like, it's not a first. And the announcers, credit to the announcers, because they were basically like, what the is happening right now? They were like, what is going on down there? It was such a botched job. They cut to commercial, and they came back, and it was just 1st and 10 Browns ball. They're like, yeah, I don't really know exactly what happened there. Let's try not to make the refs feel as bad as they should. It was such an embarrassing moment for the refs. There was also a play earlier in the game. I don't actually know if it was earlier. At some point in this game, there was a play where it was a punt, and the Browns were receiving the ball, and the Niners player clearly pulled a face mask or something, and they called, and he was number 20, and they're like, foul against number 20 of Cleveland. And then they show the instant replay, and number 20 for Cleveland is on the sidelines, and they're zooming in on a San Francisco player clearly committing the penalty they're talking about, And the announcers again are like, oh, well, they just got that completely wrong. And, the refs, like, you can see the refs on the TV look up at the screen and kind of go, oh, shit. And then they all get in a huddle. And then they turn back and they go, okay, well, after some miscommunication, we realized that actually... And the fans are just booing. They're just like, boo, what is going on? And they say, yeah, we actually it was against San Francisco. And credit to them for at least eating this slice of humble pie, because I think refs are so damn arrogant. But they said, sorry. And I've never heard a ref apologize, even when they make egregious calls. But this time they apologized.
That's because they heard the boos.
Yeah.
And it was in the, fairly early on in the game. It's like he literally was smirking and changed his mic and was like, after discussion with the refs and looking up at the Jumbotron, we want to go home safe.
Yep.
And then that that first down you're talking about, the commentators were like, so he gets the first down that you were mentioned. And then the commentators are like, first down. And then he starts like, they start pulling it and tugging it. And he's like, oh, okay, they found some extra chain in the chain link. It's like, it's 2023. In soccer, we have VAR for the World Cup. In baseball, we have technology on the ball. NFL, can we just get some technology they've already tested it out and they know it works, putting a chip in the ball? Can we just do that instead of being like, there's extra chain out? Like,
I think it's so silly. Like, I understand that the refs need to defend themselves, but the fact that their like union has like any weight to throw at all is just so silly. Like, why? Yes, why are we bringing a chain out onto the field as if we don't have all of these lines measured out by computers and like we can tell instantly? There should not be a conversation. I can see better at home than they can see from the sideline. What are they going to run over there with a chain? And then it's just so stupid. It's such a waste of time. And it's because it's been a part of the game for forever. People are like, you can't change tradition, and there's a bit of the human element. You got to have some human error. I'm like, okay, well then the game, again, I said this last week, then the game's not black and white. Then the game's not binary. The results aren't clear-cut winners and losers. You're letting the ref's ego become more important than like who truly wins or loses a game. And that's when you don't care about your product, like, whoo, man, that got me fired up. But speaking of getting fired up, a report came out today that Deshaun Watson will play against Indy this week as long as he is 100% pain-free. So, Zach, two questions. One, if P.J. Walker has to play, how do you feel about him going up against Indianapolis? But two, how do you feel about Deshaun saying, I'm going to play if I'm 100% pain-free?
If P.J. Walker's playing, and we know that more than an hour before, I feel confident that our boy who should have made the Ivy League can, make a game plan. Kevin Stefanski can make a game plan that's effective if he knows more than an hour. I'm not worried about it. We saw us be a 5-0 team in the Niners. We shouldn't worry about it. We have pieces that aren't the quarterback. The one thing that you do mention, bro, I think it's weird. Like, I think it's weird that Stefanski comes out and clarifies he was medically cleared. I think it's weird that you see these conflicting reports, and usually a head coach has the person's back. This is a situation where it feels like either Kevin's saving face or he doesn't like Deshaun and he's shown it publicly. I mean, he's had these riffs with Baker Mayfield. Like, you've seen that side of Kevin Stefanski, and I don't want to think too much of it, and nobody should, right? We just beat the Niners, but when you stop and you think about it and you see these reports that's like, he'll play, but it's totally on him and how he tolerates pain. 3-4 weeks ago, if we just come out and we say, this is a 6-week injury, it's going to be a pain tolerance thing. When he's ready and we all make that decision that he can play pain-free, it'll be fine. Instead of this back and forth, like, Tom, it's weird, right? Like, I'm not just looking too much into this. Something's weird.
No, you're dead on, especially with the just the messaging from the team should be consistent. It's not been. And yeah, I do think that Kevin is kind of saying what we've talked about on the podcast already, that he's kind of outwardly saying I have to do whatever Deshaun says. And he's kind of basically just throwing that out there. Normally you don't want to, air out all your dirty laundry in front of the media like that, but I think he's kind of hinting at hey man, this guy's kind of not tough, and he kind of cares about what people think of him a little too much, and it doesn't matter that we've paid him $230 guaranteed. He still wants to be pampered the entire time. So it's very tough to be in his corner right now, regardless of all the other reasons why it's tough to be in his corner. Just as a football player, if you told me that somebody said, well, I'm only going to play this week if I'm 100% pain-free, no one would play in the league. I've seen many games where linemen have their whole hand taped up into a club because they have multiple broken fingers. And they're like, but I don't need my fingers. Phillip Rivers played a playoff game with a torn ACL and finished the game. And Deshaun got cleared to play 3 weeks ago. It's discouraging, and I'm trying not to focus on it too much because, like I've said before, we're married to him, and we have to want the best for him if we want the best for the team. But damn, is this a soap opera that I'm sick of, man?
But see, I don't know if I agree that I would put more of the blame on Deshaun. I would love to know the communication, because clearly the communication from Deshaun Watson's camp and the Browns and Kevin Stefanski is not firing, right? The same way it wasn't firing with Baker. The same way it hasn't fired with Odell. We've seen this kind of situation happen. And, at the end of the day, I get it. Linemen play with their hand and they have cast, but this guy's using the arm he throws and the arm that is 230. So I think there's an element in there that, if he doesn't feel like he's going to put the best version of himself out there, he wants to save himself from that criticism. But I don't want to call him soft as Charmin yet, only because we're married to him, just like you said. But I don't know. If the pain, if you threw every time you threw and the pain was crazy, I'd love to know, did they offer him a Toradol shot and he said, no, I don't want to take medication?
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on. There's a disconnect.
Yes. Well, and I agree with you, what you said. Especially I think that Kevin has not handled talking about it well. In particular, the comments of saying that he was cleared. He just shouldn't have said that.
Those are huge comments.
But also, clearly Deshaun's communication has been lacking if every single person thought he was going to play before the Baltimore game, and then 2 hours before he just said, actually, I'm not going to go. Because, that trickled down. The rest of the team, imagine you're Kevin Stefanski and you just hear right before the game, oh, by the way, your starter's not playing. That is so much for him to consider. 2 hours is not enough time for him to think about all of the things that he needs to change his mind about. And on top of that, he has to go rally 53 guys and say, hey, different game plan. How do you think?
Good point.
We're talking about how important it is for the tackles to know who they're going to be facing off against and who's going to be behind them. It's important for everybody to have a degree of preparation and anticipation of what they're about to do, what they're about to face, what is going to be expected of them in terms of execution. And Deshaun just pulled the rug out from under everybody. And I feel bad for Kevin in that position to be asked to not only handle it well himself, but then find a way to convince, 50 players and 50 staff members, hey, let's all just be fine about this.
But who's the person that says, by this date, I need to know if you're ready? Are we really leaving it to an hour before the game, and then it's okay, let's switch it up? It just feels weird. I could see Deshaun Watson making everyone think yeah, I'm gonna play until 1 hour before, and Man, I agree with you. Now, just thinking about Stefanski's POV, like, we wanted his head after the Baltimore game. So he's saying that decision you're making is putting me in a position to not feed my family. And I think maybe that's why we see a comment that's so out of character for Stefanski.
Yes. I totally agree with you. And I think it's different because it's $230 guaranteed over 5 years.
Yeah.
If it was the last year in a contract and it was a prove it deal, or this was a young rookie on a rookie deal, or a young player on a rookie deal, and they were like, I don't know, coach, he would have every right to say, you're playing, tough it out, we're going to make sure we don't put you in positions to get hurt. But because it's Deshaun and because of the circumstances, Deshaun, waddles over and goes, actually, coach, I'm not playing. And Kevin is literally not allowed to fight him on that. He's not allowed to argue with him. He's not allowed to say, well, let's discuss our options. Deshaun says, I'm not playing. And Kevin is like, all right. I mean, it makes me think about how we got Mike Pettin 10 years ago or 9 years ago, and then they drafted Johnny Manziel. And Mike Pettin was just like, dude, I just want to have like a good defense and then take an average quarterback and elevate him a little bit and be a scrappy team. But now you're forcing me to play Johnny Manziel, and you are pissing away my career as a head coach. I feel bad for Mike Pettin. I think he got absolutely screwed. And, I mean, Kevin has had some up and down years. It's also weird because he had 2 years ruined because of Baker's injury. So you think he would be a bit more delicate and understanding in this situation. But like the way we've painted this, like, I think it's just super complicated, and it's a tough thing to navigate because, yeah, I mean, everything changes in a week in this league. And we're probably going to fire Kevin if this isn't a successful season. So what is our last-ditch effort? The trade rumors are spicing up. And Andrew Berry is similarly in a position where if we don't make the playoffs this year, I think he is going to get fired. So at this point, it does feel like he's going to go for a trade, if not a couple of trades. There's a bunch of people on the screen. Zach, is there anybody that like immediately sparks your interest?
No, they're not on the screen, but I mean, if we can get a guy like Travis Etienne, sure. But Breece Hall, if we can get guys that are crazy game changers, sure. But other than that, Tom, personally, I don't want to make a trade. Look at our pieces. Like, we got pieces, you know? Yeah. What about you? Like,
I think our wide receivers have wildly underperformed this year, and we could use a wide receiver. And having said that, I don't really love the 3 wide receivers on the screen. But also, prior to this past week, I was pretty out on Jed Wills, and I had been for most of his time here. But he just had a pretty good game against a great defense. So I don't know if we need to make a move just considering how much money we are giving to him, unless somebody wants him. But yeah, let's run down these players. I mean, Garrett Bowles is the option if you get rid of Jed Wills. There's Garrett Bowles in the top left. If you're looking at running backs, the 2 options on this screen are like, one's the fantasy of, for some reason, going after Saquon Barkley. The only way that makes any sense is if you can convince Nick Chubb to restructure his contract, and both of these guys are making like 12 a year, as opposed to like both of them making 15 plus. But even that would be insane. Like, it just doesn't. We'd have to give up a second or a third for him
to get a running back.
I know, and I think Ford and Kareem Hunt both looked great last game against supposedly an unbelievable defense. But Samaje Perine is that versatile back that would make sense to go for if you wanted to add a veteran to the room.
He's the great value Travis Etienne.
Sure.
Super great value.
There's the Hail Mary of like, if Deshaun's injury stays complicated, and he pulls the rug last minute, or he tries to play and then he irritates the injury and it extends longer, and we're like, okay, but we actually are in playoff contention, then I do think you want to shoot your shot and go for somebody like Kirk. Like, our defense is so good, I think we could win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, which is saying something. But our defense is so good, it would be such a waste to squander it. But I think where we really do need to make a move is wide receiver. And it's just based on what's available. Denver is selling right now, and they've got 2 options. The Cardinals are probably selling right now. The Giants are probably selling right now, but I don't really want anyone from New York. I've already expressed my dislike for Jerry Jeudy. And also, he got punked by Steve Smith so bad this week. I don't know if you saw that. He got punked, like, to his face by a guy who's retired. Steve Smith, Hall of Famer, incredible wide receiver, A1 trash talker.
Oh, yeah.
A1 trash talker.
So it's playing days.
But Jerry Jeudy, I just like the Elijah Moore experiment is currently like teetering. Like, we're not very confident in how that has gone. So I don't want another experiment.
Let's.
Go ahead.
We could do another pod about Elijah Moore, and
yes,
is Kevin using him, or is he not good? And that's why I
he has had 2 games without Deshaun. So there's definitely still potential for Elijah, but it's like I don't want to add another experiment is all I'm saying.
Yeah, you want somebody proven at wide receiver if we make a move.
Which is why I do like Cortland Sutton, but I think he's making $17 million a year. And no thank you. He has torn his ACL, I think, twice. There's just no world where we need a $17 million wide receiver with 2 torn ACLs. The one that is kind of intriguing to me is Marquise Hollywood Brown. He's a burner. He doesn't have great hands, but former Baltimore Raven. I love poaching division players, and like if the upside is there, if they end up being better than they were at the other team, you get to say like, oh, it's because our franchise is better than your franchise. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested in that if the Cardinals are selling. We just don't have a lot of assets. And we've restructured a lot of contracts so that we're paying things down the road. But going after any of these guys means we're going to have to push more money down the road. So, I don't know. But if I'm Andrew Berry, I am, one, hanging out with Jim Schwartz and saying, hey, man, you're really cool. I think you're just really cool and great and really cool. And please help me keep my job. But 2, I'm thinking, like, I'm going to ask Kevin, who do you want? I'm going to ask Deshaun, who do you want? Like, what can we do to make this work? I guess we'll see. So, Zach, this week, Browns head into Indianapolis. We're 3-2. They are 2-3. This comes on the heels of them announcing that Anthony Richardson, their star rookie quarterback, is out for the year. So they're going to be led by Gardner Minshew. How do you feel? What do you think the key matchups are? And, man, do you hope that they wear the black and blue ugly alternative uniforms as much as I do?
I hope so, because if they're that ugly and they lose to them, their fans might riot. Those are some of the ugliest jerseys I've ever seen. I'm trying to look at them. They low-key look like your local high school's kit, like passed down year to year to year. But key matchups I'm looking to, honestly, and this is not just saying this, but I think it's the mentality is what I'm looking. I want to see if our guys, are we letting Jonathan Taylor, because this is going to be his 3rd week, so he's going to be cooking. Are we going to let him cook? Are we going to let Zach Moss cook? Gardner Minshew loves to throw the ball. He threw 55 times last game against the Jaguars in that blowout. So just looking at our mentality, I'm hoping our guys aren't last pod we mentioned this, a trap game. This kind of seems like that, where you're riding high from the Niners winning and then you kind of plateau. I'm excited to see how our defense responds. And also something that happened earlier today, their nose tackle, Grover Stewart, he was suspended for PED use, I think 6 weeks.
Ooh.
So no AR1, no nose tackle. Their top PFF grades from last week were pretty much all their defense. They got our guy Taven Bryan up there on defense. They got
He's
EJ's,
doing well.
He was like number 3 rated last week against.
Good for him.
It's good to see that. You know, they have.
He was so bad here. He was such a bad 1-year tryout.
We made him. Whatever. We'll say it. They got guys like Shaquille Leonard and EJ Speed. I mean, their defense is good, man. It's no joke.
Yeah. My favorite thing about Darius Leonard was when we acquired Anthony Walker from the Colts. Darius Leonard was like, I'm really upset to see Anthony Walker go. I would not be the player I am without Anthony Walker.
Wow.
So it'll be cool to see those two. I'm sure they'll hug it out, and maybe they'll do a jersey swap afterward. I mean, Shaq Leonard's a dog. And also, I don't know when he stopped going by Darius and started going by Shaquille, but both are cool names. And he is a freaking beast. With Jonathan Taylor, it is his 3rd week back, but he hasn't really done anything in these first 2 weeks. And I'm sorry, but our defense is not the defense to say he's going to pop off against. Even Christian McCaffrey, who had a receiving touchdown, finished the game with 45 rushing yards. Like, we made him look human, and we made the rest of their team look human. We've really stopped every running back we've played and not let anybody get any yards or momentum against us. The only person who's run well against us is Lamar Jackson because he's a quarterback. Gardner Minshew, I mean, we are going to ruin his life. I wouldn't be surprised if we hurt him. And I don't say that with hopes of hurting him. We're gonna, if he's throwing 55 times, he's going to be under pressure all day. I'm not worried about this team, but yeah, the fear is that both teams don't have a great offense. So, like, which defense is going to show out more? I think it's ours. But it's in Indy, so you got to respect it. Lucas Oil Stadium is one of the best stadiums in the league. It's awesome there. I think we just need to know what the game plan is. I think that the biggest knock for us would be if we thought Deshaun was going to play all week and then it was a game time decision and PJ Walker got tossed out there. That would be the worst thing for us to happen.
Stop.
I know, I'm sorry.
It just feels like something that we would do. I don't want to freak out or say anything, outlandish. That's not the type of person I am. But I will say this, that a good team is a team that beats people they shouldn't and they beat the people they should. So we should, in theory, we should beat the brakes off of these Colts fans that are going downtown Indy. There's nothing to do there anyways. And they just go home, they're pissed drunk, and then they have a terrible Monday at work. Yeah. Ideally, that's what happens. And they wear those black unis and just look like trash.
I hope if they bust those out, man.
Dude, there's just no way those are real.
I know. They look fake. They look like a new prep school's uniform or something. You're like, oh gosh.
Also,
what
who is that? Cooper Kupp in that picture?
No, that's Alec Pierce. It's Alec Pierce.
What's the difference?
I know. Well, a lot. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference there. Oh yeah, but no. I mean, we should win this game. Score prediction. I think we beat them like 20-3. Like, I don't think we put up a ton of points because we don't need to.
Score prediction 31-14. Clip that mup because that's going to be what it is.
As the NBA season nears, we're just keeping an eye on the preseason games. Last night, Cavs played a team from, I think, the Turkish league.
Sure.
It's like Maccabi, Renan.
Macarena. Who knows?
Yeah. And no offense, I just truly can't pronounce it.
Oh, no disrespect at all. We just don't know. We just thought we would play a normal team during the preseason. We didn't know.
Yeah, I like the normies. Okay. Anyway, the only players that played that will get serious minutes right off the start of the season were like Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, and they were just there to kind of like guide these younger players. It was mostly the summer league guys, and they beat on this team, which they should, but it's just nice to see the younger players confident in their shots, confident in their playmaking abilities. I'm just so freaking excited about this season. I mean, I'm nervous about Boston and Milwaukee, but I think we're kind of the dark horse team that people don't want to see us take the next step, but it's very logically there how we elevate to the next step. What are you thinking about the Cavs right now?
Absolutely. I love last year, people were saying the Cavs are a sleeper team. This year, nobody's mentioning us. We're floating under the radar, and that is the best place that we can operate with the team that we have. So I love that. I think the graphic that you have up here of Emoni Bates is the steal of the draft. I'm already stepping up on my pedestal right now, and I'm looking the viewer in your eyes right now, and I'm telling you, Emoni Bates is the steal of the draft. It's already confirmed. I'm not even exaggerating. Seriously, when have we ever been able to see a first-round potential drop? So a lottery pick guy drop, and if the cards are right, which the system that he's in is right, they're telling him just shoot that fucking three, my man, and he's doing it, and he's kind of, Tom, every game he's kind of picking up more and more Cavs fans along the way, like, oh, that's actually pretty impressive. And that is the thing, like, imagine him with the guys that we have. I will go out and say this, and not even just, and speaking hyperboles, if he is the guy that we think he is, Donovan Mitchell will re-sign because he'll have that comfort of the core is crazy and the core is cheap. He'll be cheap at that point. So that's all I'm going to say. Can the NBA start already? Please let us start.
Oh,
please let us start.
I'm so excited. And, like, all I want to say about Emoni is I knew our only pick was the 49th overall pick. So I was like, I'm going to see an update come in, and it's going to be a player I've never heard of. And truly, he is the only name that I knew left on the board. And part of me was like, are we feeling frisky? Are we going to, like, shoot our shot and go for this kid? And we did. And I just absolutely love it right now because he's not trying to, be the guy. He's just trying to make a team. And he's 6'8", 6'9", and he can shoot from anywhere, and he can pull up from anywhere, which is, like, he can dribble and pull up, which is, it's hard to do. You either got it or you don't. And he's been making those shots since he was 16 and probably younger. But, like, he's been making those shots in big moments since he was a kid.
People were showing out to his middle school and high school games.
Yeah.
This guy was already famous before fame. Like, this is a low point in the story that you say of Emoni Bates. Like,
yeah, he was a two-time National High School Basketball Player of the Year. And there's, like, I don't know if anyone else has ever done that. Like, to win it 2 years in a row, insane. And he won it as a sophomore and a junior, and he forwent his senior year of high school, and that's why his college basketball career started so rough and kind of stayed rough. He was playing at 17 in D1 at the University of Memphis, which is a storied franchise. Like, it's crazy that, a 17-year-old struggled. So people are like, he'll never get it together. But we're already seeing, like, this guy's going to get opportunities. And, I mean, he is the future of our third position. He's our future small forward. As long as he just keeps his head down, follows TT to the right strip clubs, and just, like, stays out of trouble, man. Just play ball. You're gonna get a big contract in a couple of years if you just stay on the right path. It's very exciting. But we also have, 6 or so guys who are going to be on the G League who could easily step up and play for us anytime this year if some injuries happen. Like, we just have such a good young core. I'm so excited that the franchise is in such a good place.
And so many things to look forward to. I think it'll be one of those moments where people say, can you believe Emoni Bates fell in the draft? And
he's going to be the Tom Brady of the NBA.
I mean, that's, like, exactly where my head goes. And I don't know if it's just because we played
he's the Brock Purdy of the NBA.
No.
Brock
Purdy sucks, dude.
Brock Purdy totally sucks.
Emoni Bates. Let's just keep it going. If you guys have listened this far in the podcast, Drop the Himoni Bates in the comments right now.
Emoni Bates.
The Cavs are exciting, guys. We could honestly talk about them forever, but this Saturday is an insane game, highly anticipated. Number 3 ranked Ohio State plays number 6 Penn State. Guys, this is a noon kickoff. College Game Day, and Pat McAfee will be there before early on. Tom, what are your thoughts on this game, and are you as pumped up as everyone is?
I mean, I don't think I'm as pumped up as like diehard Ohio State and Penn State fans, because apparently the cheapest ticket you can find right now is $250, and like the average ticket is $750 or whatever. That's absurd.
Wow.
But I get it. Like, these teams are both very hyped. So this Penn State quarterback, he's young. I think he's only 19, and he was a 5-star recruit, so he's got a big arm. But I heard some stuff about how he's only throwing it like 10 yards or less. Like, almost 100% of his throws are just like the short, quick stuff. And for the first time in a long time, Ohio State's strength is their defense. Like, our defense is pretty nasty. And I think people like JT Tumalau and Jack Sawyer and some of these other guys are going to be making this kid's day tough. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about McCord in another big game. I mean, we just kind of put a whooping on Purdue and Maryland, which you would expect.
As we should.
We haven't fallen into any traps. You know, we've comfortably taken care of business. But this is your biggest test of the year so far. And it's your biggest game all season other than the team up north that we play at the end of the year. So I'm just excited for some fireworks, and I hope that the stars show up. Last game, we didn't have Henderson, and then Trainum went down. Mayan Williams didn't even suit up. We had a 4th or 5th string running back run, and he still ran well. So, like, our team's good. It always is a very deep, talented team, and I think we've had Penn State's number for quite some time, and I would just like to continue to head in that direction.
And I swear to God, if Ryan Day isn't talking smack about somebody saying something on College Game Day, I don't want to hear it. I would like Ryan Day to call somebody out every time we win, because it just makes the season more fun. Biggest question here is, can Kyle McCord make you believe that he can play in the NFL after this game? And I'm excited to see it. It'll be a really good matchup, and it's in Columbus. College Game Day is going to be there. It's going to be insane. Like, people are probably already pre-gaming right now, and it's we're filming on a Tuesday. Yeah. So, man, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild environment. The only thing that could make it better is if old ass Lisp having Lou Holtz had something to say. Oh, stupid old Ohio State actually can't get it done against Notre Dame, and I still think that Notre Dame's tougher than them. I still think Notre Dame's tougher than Ohio State, even though they lost.
There's just no way. I'm being Pat McAfee. It's just crazy. You're gonna rile them all up.
And I love that Ryan Day afterwards is basically like, Lou Holtz was wrong, and I could beat him up. It's like, okay, this guy is old as hell. Let's make fun of the way he talks. That's all. No, it should be a great game. We're quite excited for it, and I think that about wraps it up this week, Zach.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you guys if you're listening right now. Really appreciate it. Just make sure you subscribe to this podcast if you're on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, please give us a rating. Please give us a 5, or don't give us a rating at all. But, Tom, take us home, baby.
Well, we got a big week. We got a big week for Ohio State. We got a big week for the Browns. So let's get some dubs. Let's stay 1-0 this week. Zach, always a pleasure, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Let's get out of here. TW.
Peace.
Beautiful.